Right.
Yeah.
Stand by, Paul.
Not sure Sarah is in there, not sure if she is.
Stand by, Paul. Okay, so we are recording. We are live streaming as well. For those of you with us on the virtual meeting today, hang in there. We may have some moments where we've got to shuffle people around. So just be aware we're doing the best we can to track you as appearing on the agenda. And Chair, I think we're ready to go.
Thank you. I would like to call to order this meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners for Wednesday, April 6, 2020. All commissioners are present, and that constitutes a quorum of the board. As Mr. Miller, our Public Information Officer, was mentioning before the meeting, this is not only our first hybrid meeting with allowance for both in-person and online testimony to the board, but also our first in-person meeting in a little over 2 years. We followed many, if not all, other jurisdictions in shifting to virtual meetings, but now as the threat of COVID lessens, and I would emphasize lessens, it hasn't gone away yet by any means, that we are joining many other public jurisdictions in recent weeks who have gone back to the in-person meetings. First up, as we do usually at the first meeting of every month, we have recognition of county employees for service milestones of 5 years or greater, and then we will have new hire introductions. So, recognizing Brad Balk, who has been with the Surveyor's Office 5 years. Also, Maria Carmona Tamayo, 5 years with HHS. Michael Moon with 10 years of service in the Assessor's Office. Naisa Chastain, who has been with the District Attorney's Office for 15 years. Dolores Bennett, who has 20 years of service in the Clerk's Office. Julia Stahlcup, 35 years with Health and Human Services. As always, we like to thank our dedicated and long-serving employees. Now we're going to have introduction of new hires, another monthly feature. And do we have somebody online or actually in person, Jaylene Cook from Personnel. Yeah, this is
in person.
Okay.
I know we have at least one individual here in person. I'm not sure if anyone else is online or joining, but when I say your name, please stand up so the commissioners can recognize you. So my name is Jaylene Cook. I'm the Assistant HR Director for Lincoln County. And we've got quite a few new hires this last month. Kara Ammons joined the DA's office as a crime victim advocate. Ammon Bonham was joining Public Works as an engineer technician 2. Wendy Cranfield joined HHS as a community health nurse 2. Caitlin Grady joined Community Justice, the Juvenile Department, as a youth care specialist, PT&B. We also had Jason Lewis return to us in Community Justice Juvenile Department to help us out in a part-time non-benefited capacity as a juvenile probation officer. Mark Meister also returned to the Sheriff's Office in that part-time non-benefited role to help in the detective position. Aaron Olson from the Surveyor's Department joined as a survey technician 2. Antonio Ortiz, he joined the Sheriff's Office as a Deputy Sheriff Patrol. Michelle Schuler rejoined HHS as a Community Health Nurse 2. Alton Thayer came to the Public Works team as a Facility Technician 1. Angel Velasquez Oliveira joined HHS as an Office Assistant 2. And Jenna Wallace also joined the DA's office as a Deputy District Attorney 3.
Great. Welcome all. We look forward to seeing you in 5 years to receive your service pin and certificate. But our meetings, our doors are always open. We love to hear from you before that as well. Next up, we have a resolution proclaiming this month as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month in Lincoln County. Paul Schrader, the Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center, I believe will be presenting to us virtually. But before we hear from Paul, I would like to ask Commissioner Hunt if he would read the proclamation.
I'd be happy to as soon as I clean my glasses. There we go. All right, proclaiming April 2022 as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month in Lincoln County. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas the incident of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse of children, as well as neglect of children, continues at an alarming level. And whereas it is essential that every citizen in Lincoln County become involved in supporting the efforts of parents and guardians to raise their children in a safe, nurturing environment. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas prevention remains the best defense for our children and families, now therefore, we, the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim April 2022 as Child Abuse Awareness and Prevention Month in Lincoln County, and encourage all citizens to work together to help reduce child abuse and neglect significantly in the years to come, starting with joining in the observance.
Thank you, Commissioner Hunt. Paul, are you ready to present?
I don't have anything formal to present, but I would simply like to express my appreciation for the long-standing, forward-thinking nature of the Board of Commissioners in supporting the center and this issue in particular. It's a really terrific thing, and we're very grateful for that. As expected, with children returning to school in person, reporting of abuse has begun to trend upwards, and we are able to handle that work currently. Although we are significantly understaffed, we are able to provide all services at the center except trauma counseling services. So I would also like to request that if anybody know of people who are interested in doing this wonderful work, to please contact me.
Thank you, Paul. Do my colleagues have any comments or questions for Mr. Schrader?
Hi, I have a question, Paul. Thanks for being here today. I guess I would just like to understand how COVID has maybe impacted the Children's Advocacy Center and, many other social service, organizations had impacts, and I was just curious what yours have been.
That's a great question. Yeah, there have been numerous impacts from COVID, and you've seen them similarly in other arenas. Trying to do a forensic interview, for example, while being medically safe, following the prescribed guidelines from the governor of the CDC, was a real challenge. We had physical barriers in there, and the forensic interviewer wearing masks, but the child can't wear a mask. We have to be able to see what their body language is, and what their lips are doing, and what they're saying, and that posed a real problem in and of itself. But we did remain open during the whole time. Thankfully, we were allowed to do that, and we were able to provide most of the services during that time. But that, coupled with the fact that eyes simply weren't on the children very much during that time when they were out of school, so reporting was down significantly, and the children had to often remain in a really challenging environment without the help they needed.
Commissioner Hunt, anything?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hall. In the proclamation, it talks about how we must work together on this frankly ugly situation. Child abuse is so devastating to the individual, devastating to families, and has such long-term detrimental effects. But I'd be interested in how you're working together with other agencies to address this serious problem.
Another great question. I think that it does take a holistic approach to really get at this grave issue, and we take that very seriously. And we work together with many community partners. There's a multidisciplinary team that is incredibly helpful in really kind of meeting out the nature of these cases, and that's from the district attorney's office through law enforcement, child protective services, the school district, many parts of Lincoln County, including mental health, parole and probation, etc. And it really does take all of those individual groups working together to ensure the best outcome for these children.
Thank you.
No questions, Paul, but just a comment. I remember when the CAC was getting off the ground now about 30 years ago, then District Attorney Dan Glode really was the advocate and spearhead for the campaign to create the center and create the nonprofit which staffs it and operates it. It was a relatively new concept at that time, but since then it's a model that has been adopted, I know, in many other communities, and sadly is still needed and probably will be needed for a long time to come. So if there's no further discussion from commissioners, I would entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The resolution is adopted unanimously. Thanks again, Paul.
Thank you all.
We now move to discussion and information, and this will be a discussion of the district attorney detective position.
Consent calendar.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
getting too eager to move things along. Yes, next we have the consent calendar. These are routine items or items that have been discussed at previous meetings. Is there anything that commissioners wish to highlight or approve or remove? Yeah.
I'll move for adoption of the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It should have approved unanimously. Now we move on to our one item for discussion and information. This is a discussion of the district attorney detective position. And I would like to make a few comments that I hope will help set the table for our discussion. Administrative personnel matters are not something that we share publicly. We are restricted by public records laws of what we can and cannot share. Because this matter has been made public by the district attorney, we're making an exception today so that we may clear up several misrepresentations that have been put forward. We were alerted by our county human resources officer of a request by the DA to remove the DA detective position out of the union and make it a confidential position. This was following the retirement of the previous incumbent in that position. In fact, after the position was posted and closed, the DA changed the union status on that position from union to confidential. This is a clear violation of labor laws, and had the employee started the county could have faced an unfair labor practice complaint from the union. This position has been bargained and is included in the union. A position cannot unilaterally be removed from a union, even by an elected official, without first bargaining that. Other concerns included the job duties of conducting internal and external investigations, which are also outlined in a letter from the DA to the board on January 21st. And let me refer to the relevant lines in this statement. First, conduct extensive background investigations of prospective new county employees, a function, by the way, which is currently being performed by HR, and then may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other government agency employees. And as far as I know, we are never empowered to investigate employees of other government agencies unless there are pending or possible criminal charges there. For these reasons, the position was placed on hold while we requested HR to make inquiries of other comparable counties and view job descriptions of similar positions. Lincoln County has a population of just under 50,000. None of our comparable counties had criminal detectives located in DA's office or positions in a DA office dedicated to conducting internal employment investigations and external investigations. Is District Attorney Danforth present in the room or by video?
I am present in the room.
Okay, would you like to come forward? We would invite you to address us on this, and would really appreciate if you could focus on any new information you have to present to us. We have reviewed the lengthy correspondence you've had with us, and also things you have posted on your webpage. So would be appreciative if we could focus on what's new. But the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Hall. In front of you, you should have an email string between myself and your Human Resources Director, David Collier. That email is dated January 21st.
Can you give us just a minute to get where you are? Hang on.
Sure.
All right, got it. Sorry. Go ahead.
In this email string, I requested that we make the detective position non-union and exempt. David Collier told me no, and I didn't push back on that. I said, okay, that's fine. We'll leave it as is. He said, we are prepared to make an offer to Detective Dorsey. I'll read directly from the emails. When HR has had conversations with Ms. Dorsey, we have communicated that the position is not covered under PERS, is non-exempt, and we never told her she would get any incentives. We are prepared to issue an offer letter to Ms. Dorsey at a salary range 16 with 20 years of experience, step 11. My response on January 26th was, can we please move forward with giving that offer to Detective Dorsey? Subsequent to that, that offer was given to Detective Dorsey. I'm not at all surprised that you are trying to control the narrative and spin things in your favor. This email string, along with the letter that was attached, clearly shows that when David Collier told me no about changing the classification, I said, okay, let's keep it as is and let's move forward. I'll next address the job description. You mentioned the detective conducting background checks of new employees. That has existed in the DA's office long before I took office. I have emails from HR that talk about that, from Jaylene Cook saying Ron Benson does your background checks. I didn't put that in the job description. It's been in there. It wasn't an issue when Jonathan Cable was the DA. It wasn't an issue when Michelle Branham was the DA. I'll tell you when it became an issue. It became an issue when David Collier harassed, retaliated against, and bullied my chief deputy and I. Hours after, Chair Hall, you spoke with him about his behavior, you put the position on hold. I have received different answers from all of you about why you put this position on hold. None of those answers included the letter asking to change the classification of the position. Furthermore, the offer letter that you gave to Detective Dorsey outlined the position was still in the union and the position was non-exempt, as we had discussed. This is all a lie. I don't know if you've been getting this information from Mr. Collier or if you are complicit in this, but it's a lie. Bottom line, a lie. There is no reason for the way that you have acted and the actions that you have allowed other than retaliation. The only thing I have to add beyond that is there are 13 other counties that have these positions. Whether it's called an investigator or a detective is a matter of semantics. If you would like to change the job title to say investigator, that's fine. This position has existed for more than 30 years. These detectives have worked on really important cases like Christian Longo, Kelly Disney, cases that our community have an interest in investigating and solving. You sat up here and talked about the importance of child abuse and that you support efforts to protect our children. My detective position protects children. My detective position responds to major crimes when 9-year-old children are found dead in a duffel bag dumped by the river. Your interference with my office is costing lives. It's threatening public safety. It's blatant retaliation. I have tried to speak with you and county council and HR 22 different times between the time you put this position on hold and now. I have not had one meeting or one opportunity to do that. Commissioner Jacobson was the only commissioner that spoke with me on the phone. I'm the elected DA. You don't have to like it. You don't have to support me. You don't have to like me. But you do have to allow me to run my office, and you have to treat me with the basic respect that you give to other department heads and other elected officials. If you want to be the DA, go to law school, get a law degree, pass the bar, and run against me. Until you do that, back off and let me run my office.
Would you be open to questions?
Yeah.
So we've discussed the request, which was denied, to move this from a union position to a confidential, non-represented position. Do you have anything to address the concerns we raised about the appropriateness of that position being in the union?
I don't understand your question.
Okay.
I spoke with Mr. Collier in my email response. He said I was fine with leaving the position as it is and as it has been for 30 years. I didn't push back on that. In the public comment that I wrote to you, I included in there that I recognize the board's authority to change the classification of the position. And because of that, when Mr. Collier told me no, I didn't push back. I respected it. I respect his authority. What I don't respect is the overreaching.
Would you address at all the statement you've added to the job description may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other government agency employees? I'm just curious how you envision that playing out and whether in fact it is a legal right of the DA to investigate people unless they're subject or have criminal charges pending against them.
I have a few things to say in response to that. First of all, I didn't add that to the job description. if you reviewed the materials that I provided to you where I outlined the changes to the job description in red, that was already in there. I would also add that after what has occurred over the past 9 weeks, when you investigated my chief deputy for putting somebody on leave, and you had a secret investigation, refused to share investigation materials with me, I think it's absolutely appropriate to have an employee in the DA's office that conducts internal investigations, because public corruption, there's no check on it. And if you guys are gonna continue to behave this way, then yes, I think it's appropriate. But I wanna be clear that I did not add that to the job description. And I wanna be clear that it was never an issue when Jonathan Cable was in office, and it was never an issue when Michelle Branham was in office. It didn't become an issue until the day that you talked to Mr. Collier and told him that we alleged that he bullied and harassed and retaliated against us, which he did. And I want you to know that after I went public with that, I had several county employees reach out to me who I have never met, some of whom have been here for 20+ years, and said the same thing happened to us, and we are afraid to come forward. You have county employees, they're throwing up before work because of him. That's a problem. Last week, you all sat here and patted yourselves on the back for the fact that everybody loves to be a Lincoln County employee. That's a lie. It's a lie. And anybody that speaks out against that and brings that to your attention is retaliated against.
Any questions from my fellow commissioners?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So one is like, just kind of in general terms, I guess, walk us through like, I think even in your email kind of about this position to David Poyer on the 21st and talking about comparable pay scales and stuff, and say that, you know, easiest comparable scales within the sheriff's office as a detective there, which would make sense. But I guess talk us through like, why would this position be in the DA's office versus why wouldn't a detective be in the sheriff's office? Like, you know, why is there a difference there, and what makes that important? Because I see some of these things that are in the position description, I know our sheriff's office does do. So, you know, from a duplicative effort, why do we need this in the DA's office? Why wouldn't it stay in the sheriff's office?
Sure, and I'm happy to answer that question. I want to reiterate that I'm frustrated because you all approved this position with that job description, and now you're going back and asking me to justify it. I'm happy to justify it, but I want you to know that it's completely inappropriate how this came about. That said, there are, like I said, 13 other counties that have these positions in their offices in Oregon, and there are counties all over the nation that have them. The detective position is responsible for multiple things, including death investigation. The sheriff's office detectives are not responsible for that. They assist the deputy district attorneys with follow-up interviews. So one example of this would be, we were talking about child abuse. Let's say that a child shows up for grand jury and they testify and they disclose new information. We can have our detective come right over and interview the child about the new information right then and there and document that. There's no conflict. I know Ms. Yule said there was a conflict of having a detective in the DA's office. There's not. And you can ask any other elected DA, current or former, and they would tell you the same thing. The other reason that it's helpful to have this position in the DA's office is because they're a member of the major crime team. They're a member of the crash team. And so when we have our major crime team callouts, the detective from the DA's office goes to those callouts. They're actually assigned tasks. So when Mark Campbell was murdered in Waldport, our detective responded and was assigned tasks to interview witnesses. They can help write search warrants. So when a homicide occurs, typically the first thing we have to do is draft a search warrant. It's a lengthy process. If our DA's office detective, and Detective Dorsey has extensive experience doing this, if they can start writing the search warrant, that allows other detectives to go do other things. So there's a lot of reasons why it's appropriate to have this position in the DA's office. There's more freedom in what they can do. They, again, help our DDAs, and I have letters, I haven't submitted them to you, but I have letters from the DDAs in my office talking about how helpful the position is and how far it's been to not have that position in our office. And so again, it's existed for 30 years. It's something to be proud of. Not a lot of counties, 13 counties have this position, but the counties who don't wish they did. And they wish that they had commissioners that would fund it. And I'm thankful that our commissioners do fund it, but I think it's something to be celebrated and not something to be changed. We are out, we're the model for other counties, and that's something that we should feel good about and not something that we should be trying to change.
We do currently have one investigator already who's grant funded.
We do, yes. So he's fully grant funded and he's limited on the cases that he can work on and the hours and.
And is that grant funding, where are we with that? Do we have another 2 years, or where is that grant funding currently on that?
I believe we have another year, 2 years, okay, 2 years, yeah. But again, that's not guaranteed every year, but.
I understand that, yeah, okay. And I guess my other question is, so this piece around, let me find it. Around maybe required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other governmental agency employees. I guess my issue with this is that we might be getting into an unfair, labor practice of our collective bargaining units on how we investigate employment related matters. Hang on, I hear you saying that, you didn't put this in the position description.
Right.
Are you okay if that was removed?
Yep.
Okay. And I heard you say that you were okay if the title was changed from detective to investigator,
Yes.
which potentially would match the investigator that we had. That was the title previously. And I think the other one you have in your office is called investigator.
Right, I don't think that the pay would be, so yes, I don't care what the title is, but I want to make sure that it's well understood that the duties are different. The investigator that we have in the office is not a certified medical legal death investigator. They don't do death investigations. And so if the purpose of your question is to move it down on the pay scale, I don't think that's appropriate, but that's not my decision to make. That's your decision to make. And you have the authority to make it. And I'm not going to interfere with that.
Okay, I think that is all the questions I have for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Hunt?
I just have one question. Would you address the apparent change in the job description that, as you've noted accurately, the original job description that was held by the former employee? And for the record, I'm not going to discuss names. I've had 39 years experience in the private sector. I've had close to 20 years experience in the public sector. And one of the few things that this public and private sector have in common is we don't discuss personnel matters in public, but it's already been noted we're here because of the uniqueness of this situation. So having said that, is it not reasonable to say that the job description was changed from what it was previously for the former employee to what you're now asking the job description responsibilities to be with the new employee?
No, that's not true. I emailed Mr. Collier and I made those suggestions about changing the classification of the positions. I didn't change any of the job duties. I didn't add job duties, none of that. I did that in January 2021. That was adopted and reviewed by HR. And I did not make one change to the job duties from that time. And I also just want to make one comment that with all of your years of experience, Commissioner Hunt, you know that there's a difference between a personnel matter and whether to cut a position or change a position in the DA's office.
I acknowledge that. I didn't dispute that. I'd be interested. So in your letter to Mr. Collier of January 21st, you state, but a few of the listed duties under the provision of the job description include the following: conduct extensive background investigations of prospective new employees. Was that a part of the former job description?
Yes, it was.
Conduct special internal investigations of county and other governmental agency employees.
Yes, that was part of the former job description, and I provided you guys a copy of that, and I notated my changes in red.
Okay, and investigate sensitive confidential cases assigned by the district attorney.
Yes, that was in the job description before.
Okay, thank you.
If I could get back to the question of job descriptions. Again, I have the job description for this position that was approved in July of 2008. And while it talks about the incumbent in the job conducting special internal investigations of prospective new county employees. And it does refer to also conducting special internal investigations and other other government agency employees. But in fact, the previous incumbent in this job, as I understand it, was solely limited to doing background checks on new hires within the district attorney's office.
You'll have to go back and review the job descriptions that I provided to you that have their changes reflected in red.
Thank you. Dave Collier, our HR director, is here, and I just wondered if you would like to come forward. The board may have some questions for you. Actually, I'll start off that, can you talk about, because I know this is a distinction, a lot of people who aren't involved in government HR may not be aware of, but the idea of potentially changing this position from union position to a non-represented position, that's not really a simple matter, is it? That we can't just do it at whim?
No, you are correct, Chair Hall. It's not. And again, for the record, my name is David Collier. I'm the Human Resources Director here at Lincoln County.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Collier?
Excuse me,
Sure.
Commissioner
No
Jacobson.
questions, go ahead.
I'd be interested. So, well, the job description hasn't been changed. Has the allocation of the time, has the emphasis as far as how that individual's time would be spent, has that changed? The former employee, if I'm correct, did none of the duties that I questioned. Well, back up, may have investigated sensitive confidential cases by the assigned DA, but the other two, those weren't job responsibilities necessarily handled by the former employee. Would it not be fair to say that when it comes to investigations of county employees, isn't that normally the HR department's responsibility?
That is correct. The investigation of employment matters is the HR department. That would be correct.
So in effect, that would be a duplication of responsibilities.
Yes, that would
And
be a question.
would you consider that to be the most effective use of county resources, to have duplicate positions in other departments?
No, I wouldn't. I think for a county our size, that again, the HR department is capable of handling those things.
Okay, the district attorney mentioned, I think, 13 counties. How many of those counties are of comparable size to ours? In other words, aren't many of those larger, far larger, such as Multnomah, Washington, Clackamas, Marion, Lane?
I would, Commissioner Hunt, you would have to ask DA Danforth. I do not know the answer to that question. Again, when I did some research, I looked at comparable counties that were roughly our size, a little plus, a little minus, and they did not have this position in it.
Do any other departments in the county have positions that an individual has responsibilities for investigating other individuals within the department?
The sheriff's office does some of their own, the sergeants, but which, that aren't in the union, they do some of their own discipline there. They do consult HR, keep us informed.
But they're not, they're not,
They are not.
and as is currently proposed, this position would be within the union.
That's correct.
Okay, so other than the sheriff's office, HR, which is the largest department in the county,
HHS.
I'm sorry. Well,
Probably David wishes it was
Yeah.
largest some days.
Yeah, don't hold me to that one. Yeah, HHS, which is the largest county department, doesn't have any people that have these type of responsibilities.
That is correct. We do.
Okay, so last question, would you say that the changes in the job description, at least as they've been portrayed, are significantly different than what it was before?
Again, I think, the job description did not change. Ms. Danforth was correct in that. So I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
Okay, you answered.
Okay,
Thank you, David. I think we've reached the point now where the board should deliberate on this issue and see if we are going to reach a path for moving forward. I would again like to emphasize that the three commissioners are responsible for ensuring that public funds are used appropriately and that we are not duplicating services throughout departments. We look at these services being provided and which department is responsible for providing them. We currently fund 3 detective positions within the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. They investigate matters throughout the unincorporated areas of the county. As has been stated, our HR department conducts internal employee investigations when needed and assists managers throughout the county. I believe that we simply do not have the resources to fund every department for staff positions to conduct internal investigations, nor is that the focus of services we provide or the type of morale we want to promote. And as Commissioner Hunt just indicated, our largest department is HHS, which has 147 employees and no position to conduct internal investigations. Any comments from?
Are we open to discussion?
Yes, I want to open it up for board discussion at this time.
Well, looking at the PD here, I think there's 2 parts of this that I don't have any problems with at all, and 2 parts I think we need to discuss. So the 2 parts I don't have any issue with is assist prosecuting attorneys in preparing cases for criminal prosecution in the appropriate courts, listed at 20%. I don't have an issue with that at all.
Excuse me, Commissioner Jacobson, could you clarify the initials, what that is?
The initials.
PD?
Oh, position description. I'm sorry to
I
repeat
think
that.
that's,
Thank you.
important.
Yes, okay. So under job functions, assist prosecuting attorneys in preparing cases for criminal prosecution in the appropriate courts, this is at 20%. I am fine with that. And then I think the last paragraph there, assist the Lincoln County Medical Examiner as needed, listed at 30%. Those are 2 things that I don't, in my opinion, I don't need to have any discussion on those. The 2 parts I want to have discussion on, of course, if you want to discuss other parts we can, are to assist law enforcement in conducting investigations and assist district attorney as requested. I feel like we need to discuss that.
Commissioner Hunt?
Well, I think some communication is a fine art. We're in some aspects, I think, talking about semantics. The job description may be consistent. The position description is not consistent from one to the other. And that's what concerns me. So I align with your concerns, Commissioner Jacobson.
I share those concerns as well.
Well, so should we maybe tackle part of this? Do you want to-
Well, I would ask that, HR work to redefine the position description, the one that's acceptable.
Well, I think I'd like to. I would like to discuss part of this.
Yeah,
So
go
for
ahead.
me,
To
under
give them
assist,
direction.
yeah, because I feel like we don't have direction, and I'd like to leave today with some clarity. For everybody. So
Go ahead.
under assist district attorney as requested, conduct extensive background investigations with respect to the new county employees. My understanding is in talking to people that this is something that this position had done in the past. And I don't see an issue with that. May be required to conduct special internal investigations counting other governmental employees. Whether it was in the PD or not in the PD or whatever, it is duplicative. It also creates an issue with their union, so that does need to come out. It sounds like the DA is okay with that coming out. Investigate sensitive confidential cases assigned by the DA. I guess I'm not entirely sure what that is. Maybe we could get some additional information on that piece. And then under, I lost it. Well, I guess let's talk about that.
What do you suggest? I'm open to it.
I guess I would like to just have some discussion and, you know, see how the both of you feel about that. I mean, to me, one of the main issues was it may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other government employees. That seems to be something we just simply can't take on because it's duplicative and issue.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I do have an answer to the question that you asked me earlier, if you'd like me to provide that. November 21st, 2020, when Jonathan Cable was still the DA, Jaylene Cook sent me the current job descriptions in the district attorney's office. I will forward you this email after the meeting. In the job description, actually, here we go, I have it right here. Under the job description, when Jonathan Cable was the DA and when Michelle Branham was the DA, the job duties were conduct extensive background investigations of prospective new county employees may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other governmental agency employees.
Thank you. So. Now, Commissioner Jacobson, I think you've zeroed in on the same areas of concern that I have. I don't know if this is really the proper forum to do specific wordsmithing on the job description. What I would be comfortable with, depending on how both of you feel, is a motion to direct the staff to work with the district attorney on revising the discussion with emphasis on the concerns that we have raised here today.
My concern is that I'm not sure without a lot of guidance that staff and the DA are going to be able to work that out. I would like for that to happen. I would very much like for that to happen, but I don't know that with the way things are and personalities that is possible to be worked out like that.
Well, I think county council would also need to be a part of those discussions, and either she or Mr. Collier or both of them could report individually to us from time to time, and we provide feedback on whether we're comfortable with the discussion, the direction of how this is going.
Yeah, because I absolutely want resolution on this, and I have always felt that there is a path forward on this. I've always felt that there is a path forward, and I would like to find that path. But I feel like it's gonna need some guidance, maybe, and some help in finding that path.
Well, I agree with your concerns, and I think the guidance that I would provide is to eliminate duplicate services. And if there's possible language that creates particular concern, maybe that language be addressed. And certainly the language regarding the internal investigations of employees is one that I would ask to be evaluated.
Yeah, and as we do on the dozens and dozens of job description requests that are presented to us regularly, we have the ultimate authority to approve those descriptions.
So I think I can offer some clarity. So
And could
if
you
the
introduce
position-
yourself
yeah,
for the record?
Kristen Eulis, county counsel. So you can't have a union member investigate other union members. So therein lies the issue. This is a bargained position. The position is not confidential. So that is an unfair labor practice. The former employee was not conducting internal employment investigations. I know there's been a lot of discussion. Yes, the job description said this, that Mr. Benson was not conducting former, internal employment investigations.
My understanding is except for prospective
Yes,
DA
background,
office
sure,
employees,
background
checks.
investigations, background checks. So that's an unfair labor practice. That's a concern. Had he been doing that, that would have been raised as a grievance with the union. So that is a service that Human Resources provides. We do have collective bargaining agreements that we have to abide by, and we have to follow labor laws. So that is a direct violation of labor law if that were to continue.
So if the decision or the job description is changed so that this person continues to be a represented employee, in order to be in compliance with labor laws, certain responsibilities would have to be eliminated. Is that fair?
Sure. So this is a bargain position. If it were to be removed, the union, it has to be a bargain. So there's a process you have to go through. Currently, it's a union represented position.
Is there a difference between background checks and special internal investigations?
Yes, and it specifically mentions sensitive confidential cases. So that would be, again, a confidential employee to conduct those.
Thank you.
Would someone like to make a motion at this point, or do
Before
you need to
that,
deliberate?
I'd like to make a statement.
Sure.
And as I've already indicated, I've had extensive experience in both private and public sector, and I've never encountered this kind of a situation, but so be it. So I think some background is important. This is not a budget issue. Other requisitions have been approved for positions within the DA's office, and in fact, I believe within the last few weeks, we approved a position in the DA's office. So why is this requisition different? Clearly, it's not a budget issue. It's clearly not a requisition issue. It's clearly not a situation where the commissioners have it out for a certain individual, because with the exception of this job description or this requisition, things have been processed, I think, reasonably efficiently. So let's start at the beginning.
We may have to clear the room if another outburst like that takes place. Commissioner Hunt, please continue.
I'm just waiting.
Okay.
You know, I've sat here respectfully and listened to people that have talked. I guess I would ask the same of the audience. Thank you. As I said, with the exception of this job description, things have been processed efficiently. Well, I'm not aware of any problems in solving other or approving other requisitions. So why has this one become a problem? And it became a problem when I became aware of some of the changes that we've discussed, the fact that it would entail a change from a represented employee to an unrepresented employee, potentially be a violation of labor law. And so, as the district attorney accurately noted, I asked the HR department to provide additional information, and that is where I'm at. So again, my concern is the duplication of jobs, the fact that we're in potentially would be in violation of labor laws, and I think to create duplicate positions where you've got people in different departments doing HR responsibilities. I mean, let's put a finance department in HHS. They're the largest department in the county, and I see the director of HHS in the audience. I'm sure she'd like that. But resources are limited, and we need to make decisions that are in the best interest of the county, best utilization of available resources. And I think the duplicate aspects of this job description are the challenge. So again, it's not with the fact that you've got a requisition that we're not going to approve. It's the fact that that requisition is different than what the former job responsibilities where the individual had held it, and represents a potential violation of labor law.
Would anyone like to frame a motion at this point, or do we need further discussion?
If Commissioner Jacobson's ready for a motion, I'll offer one. Okay, I move to have staff amend the job description to remove the duplicate services of human resources in the sheriff's office from the job description. The support for the medical examiner and case support shall remain with the position. Okay, this motion.
No,
fails.
I will second it for purposes of discussion.
Okay.
I felt like the motion was a little too vague on what we were directing staff to do, and moving duplicative services. We still need to comment on, we're talking about this, conducting internal investigations, are we talking about assistant law enforcement piece?
Well, what if we included in the motion kind of an umbrella statement to the effect that to discuss the full scope of HR and VOC concerns about the position as currently constituted. Because I think Mr. Collier, Ms. Yule are both, they're both present today. They are both, of course, deeply familiar with this situation, and I think they are pretty well versed on what our concerns are.
Fine with that, or Commissioner Jacobson, offer an amendment?
I guess my amendment would be that we direct staff to make a new position description, taking out the special internal investigations part of the position description and making sure it's compliant with the requirements of labor laws.
Could I add a further amendment to that, also removing the part of the description that contemplates investigating employees in other units of government?
I believe we're talking about the same. board.
Right,
Yes.
right, both internal and external investigations.
For external criminal investigations.
Right, right.
So I believe I'm comfortable with those amendments, but can somebody restate the amendment as it's current, in its current form?
I'm gonna have to go back and listen. To direct staff to remove the duplicative internal and external investigations.
Mhm.
So the specific bullet point I'm trying to remove is may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other governmental agency employees. So it's removal of that, sorry, Asia. And then making sure the revised position description meets union requirements and labor law.
Union.
Are you comfortable with the proposed
I
amendments?
believe so, but again, just for clarity for everyone, I'd like to have the motion restated.
Will you show me the bullet point and then I can restate it?
Are we removing both the bullet points 1 and 2 in the district attorney's letter?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So the amendment would be to direct staff to remove the duplicative services may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other governmental agency employees to apply with union requirements and labor laws.
And Commissioner Hunt added external criminal investigations as well. And or Commissioner Hunt.
Yes. I know those are both part of the same bullet point, but I'd like to have explicit direction from the board on that point.
Right, I got lost. Go ahead, Commissioner Hunt. Go ahead.
Well, I'm laughing because I'm lost also.
Did you need a minute to catch up? Let's give Asia a minute.
Okay.
And then-
Didn't know this came with a job, did you?
Right? So we're including the extensive background investigation.
Paul, will you share me the bullet point that you're discussing for the external investigation?
Assist district attorney as requested. The second bullet point may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other government agency employees.
Okay. But not necessarily external.
Well, I would think by definition, an employee of another governmental agency would be restricted.
Okay. Ready?
Thank you.
All right. So the amendment is to direct staff to work with the DA's office to remove the duplicative job description, may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other governmental agency employees. Oh, no, I lost it. And to meet the requirements of union and labor laws. So the one that Chair Hall just told me does not necessarily say external, but it does say other governmental agency employees.
And you're including external criminal investigations.
Right.
Can you, I got lost on that. Can you explain what needs to be?
Well, if there is grounds for an actual criminal investigation against someone, that would be the sheriff's office, and whether, I don't know why that other government agency employees was ever called out in this in the first place, which is the DA has pointed out, precedes her time in service, but and why we would have special license to investigate other government agency employees, and why not people in the private sector? If there's grounds for an actual criminal investigation, the sheriff or the city police agencies or Oregon State Police would do it, but I do not think this is appropriate for a DA investigator position.
Asia, can I have my PD back?
Yep, sorry.
That would help me, thank you. Commissioner Hall, so are you talking about the assist law enforcement in investigations or following up on investigations piece? Or are you over on assist district attorney as requested?
The latter, the second bullet point.
I see your second bullet point.
Yeah.
Oh, may be required to conduct. Yeah, I think we beat that to death.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got that.
It's just, I'm just concerned that bullet point doesn't say anything about external. So I guess that's my conclusion.
Well, by definition, I don't know if county council wants to weigh in, that investigating employees of other governmental agencies, wouldn't that be by definition?
If you're gonna put, and if you placed in the motion that you're removing from the job description any external criminal investigations, then that will cover, we can go through the job description and figure out where that would overlap. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
That's to me.
Well, I have a question. I guess
Okay.
the external criminal investigations in relation to that bullet point,
No, in relation to the entire job description. That's what I assume Chair Hall is speaking about.
That was the original motion.
Okay.
so you're talking about the external criminal investigations and the whole PD, not that particular bullet.
Correct.
The motion?
Could you read it? Please, in its entirety.
Okay, the amended motion is to direct staff to work with the DA's office to remove the duplicative job description, may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other governmental agency employees, including internal and external investigations, to meet the requirements of union and labor laws.
Mr. Hunt, in terms of the amended version of your motion, are you okay with that language?
I'll support it.
And as the one who proposed the amendment, I will support it as well. Someone like to, well, it's already,
We already have a motion.
yeah, we already have the motion, so, and the amended version.
Commissioner Jacobson, are you okay with the amendments?
I have to say, I'm still confused on what exactly we're doing with the external investigations. I don't need to just keep bringing this back up, but are we talking, the way Asia has read it, where it relates back to part of the PD, or at least as I interpret it, It relates back to the part of the PD as assist district attorney as requested under the may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county employees. I am okay with that. That's the way I'm interpreting that external investigation.
Would there be additional language or different language that would make you more comfortable?
Actually, Asia, could you read it one more time? I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
The amended motion is to direct staff to work with the DA's office to remove the duplicative job description may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other governmental agency employees, including internal and external investigations to meet the requirements of union and labor laws.
Internal employment and external criminal investigation.
Well, so the external criminal investigations, you know, that's a significant portion of what this job was supposed to be doing. Thank you. That's the piece I'm having a problem with this amendment. I'm you know, totally fine and agree with removing that particular bullet point out under the assist district attorney as requested. And I think in terms of, you know, internal employees, if there's a criminal, something happening to employees that needs to go to law enforcement and making sure it's compliant with union requirements and labor law issues, that if we're saying we're making a PD, you know, adjustment, looking at external, you know, investigations in general, that's most of the PD.
Yeah, I know we're focusing a lot on this, but to me, this is the strongest concern that I have. If we are talking about external criminal investigations of other government employees, then those should be conducted by the sheriff's office. Law
I agree
enforcement,
with you.
law enforcement
Yes.
investigates, the DA prosecutes. And if it's a non-criminal investigation, I don't see how we have authority just to go searching randomly in other government agencies for exactly what, if there's no.
So are we, I guess, in that bullet point, are we talking about investigating employees or are we talking about external investigations in general? Because I think we need to be really clear when we give directions to staff about what we are talking about. So if we are talking about external investigations on employees or other governmental employees, I think we have talked about that. I think we are in agreement about that. But just the, you know, the language of just external criminal investigations, to me, you know, that's a significant piece of the position description if we're not talking about employees. And so I'm trying to understand by that word external criminal investigations being in there, what is meant by that in that motion?
No, so she's looking at the first page, Claire.
Okay.
Yeah, so are you talking about this first page? Here. You add external criminal investigations, or are you talking about external?
Actually, I was focusing on the second page here.
Okay,
You know, again, special internal investigations of county and other government agency employees. And if it's a criminal matter to me, then it's police or sheriffs who should be investigating it.
so I think we're saying in relation to employees.
Mm-hmm.
So criminal matters, you want the sheriff's office to do.
Right.
Okay, so
When
then
it comes to employees.
Yeah, well,
you're gonna have to address that in the first section. then.
are you referring to the bullet point, conduct extensive interviews, interrogations of complaints, witnesses, victims, and suspects to obtain information, confessions, etc.? Yeah, that, again, something we really haven't brought to the fore yet, but is a significant issue to me anyway, is this potential of blurring of the lines between the police investigative function and the district attorney's prosecution function. And, you know, one of the things I've wondered about that is, doesn't that on the face of it pose a potential conflict of interest if the office is prosecuting a case that they have investigated? Please, no more outbursts.
So I'll let you address the concern that you had initially was that was duplicative of functions that were already provided in the county. My understanding is the sheriff's office has 3 detectives. They also have patrol officers who also investigate crimes. So this is, you know, a board decision, how you want to amend or decide this job description.
So I guess we have issues with the appropriateness of this item as well as the duplication of function in the sheriff's office.
I guess I'm waiting for agreement what the language is, and then I'll be able to make a decision.
Should we try again to review the language of our motion? And ultimately, well, we want this motion to be as specific as possible. I'm not sure we can capture every facet of every concern. And that's why I've suggested informally that HR and if necessary, legal counsel can inform us on how the discussions are going to revise the position and see if.
My original motion was general with the understanding that some of the specifics could be worked out in the process of amending the current job description. But I'm also, I think it's valuable to have a motion that Commissioner Jacobson is comfortable with as to chair.
And I think zeroing in on the areas of our greatest concern in the motion gets that on the record and would be appropriate as well.
So you would like staff to look at anything that is considered duplicative in the sheriff's office within the job
Or
description.
how about duplicative with other county agencies?
So sheriff's
Because-
office and HR.
Yeah.
and remove those job functions.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, so that's what we-
I agree with removing the bullet point we've discussed and discussed and discussed. But
What language would you be comfortable with? Again, I'm trying to find language that we're all comfortable with and I think addresses the concerns that we've already discussed in this meeting.
Well, I mean, I guess a point of discussion is, you know, does the board, so if we're feeling like we want to discuss duplicative services in terms of what the sheriff's office may be doing, are we discussing duplicative services or are we discussing if this position is best fitted inside the sheriff's office? Because we do have, but I mean, of course, we have some duplicative services. We have more than one deputy, for example, right, to cover those things. And so, you know, we oftentimes have more than one position doing the same work to make sure that's covered. And so simply because something is more than one person is doing it, doesn't mean that we don't need it. Sometimes we have jobs that require more than one person to get that job done. Or we have you know, legal requirements, the number of people that supervise kids in the juvenile facility or something like that. And so, you know, saying we're gonna remove anything that's duplicative to me doesn't you know, look at the picture of how this stuff is getting done. It may not be duplicative. So is it the, I guess, the will of the board of discussing where this is best fitted, like in the sheriff's office versus DA's office? Or are we directing staff to go through and remove things that the sheriff's office is already doing? That's where I wasn't sure.
Well, again, I think that's something we need to have further discussion of. whether the position should exist at all, and if so, whether it exists in the DA's office or the sheriff's office.
I've said from the beginning, I that, look at the positions, we need to avoid that. Because it's not the best, it's not the best utilization of our dollars, and that's not, in my opinion, the most efficient way to operate. This is a job description that has been in or under the DA's office. And, if we can amend the job description to one that is comfortable and avoids duplication of services, I could be comfortable with that. I think it's an entirely different discussion to take this position and say it's no longer in the DA's office, it's not in the sheriff's office. But I'm open to that if that's the will of the board.
I wasn't clear where we were going, which is why I asked the question.
Mhm.
It wasn't clear with bringing up, the duplicative separate efforts overall in the job functions, which direction we wanted to go with that. I think my preference would be to try to move it in the DA's office, to put the DA position, and there is several parts of this that, were job functions the previous employee had, so that would be my preference, but like I said, I wasn't sure what was meant by the
Well,
external investigations.
The amended job description would come before us for approval, so if the amendments don't meet with your expectations, Commissioner Jacobson, certainly that would be a time to address them. But I think generally to avoid duplication of services amongst departments is generally a good guideline.
You should read us the thing one more time.
The same one?
Yeah, I think that last.
The proposed motion as
Well,
amended.
amendments.
Yeah.
To direct staff to work with the DA's office to remove the duplicative job description may be required to conduct special internal investigations of county and other governmental agency employees, including internal employment and external criminal investigations in relation to employees to meet the requirements of union and labor laws.
Okay,
Just counsel, you have any comment?
Just to be clear, so employees and the public.
yeah, well, it's not called out in the job description, but yeah, criminal investigations of the public should be conducted by law enforcement.
So the sheriff's office. or-
Yeah, depending on jurisdiction.
Or police agencies.
Yeah. And Mr. Collier, do you feel you've got sufficient direction from us?
I do, Chair Hall.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jacobson, any other comment?
I'm not.
What might we do to get you comfortable?
Actually,
Sorry, Chair.
That's fine.
is Sheriff Landers? I think he was trying to.
Online.
join us.
Here we are. Curtis.
Good morning. For the record, Curtis Landers, Lincoln County Sheriff.
Hey, thank you, Sheriff Landers, for being here today. I guess the piece that I'm struggling with a little bit is the, addition into the, I think you've been following along, into the motion about, criminal investigations, into the public. I think we cleared up the employee matter pretty clearly there. And I guess I would just like to maybe hear from you, your office obviously does do criminal investigations. And it seems like there's kind of an issue here with if this is duplication or I'd like to hear from you, with the potential investigator doing criminal investigations of the public and SPD, if that's an issue, or how these positions would work together?
Yeah, I think I understand the question. You know, this position is very valuable to public safety in our county. And as far as the conduct criminal investigations, I think we're really getting into, should it be a certified position or non-certified position? Under the law, it allows for it to be a certified police officer. There's a definition in there as peace officer that the DA can have an investigator or detective to do these investigations. Is it duplicate? It may be duplicate, but as you stated earlier, Commissioner Jacobson, it doesn't mean that it's unnecessary. I think we have enough investigations going on in our county to keep all the detectives busy. And I mean, we could do more with, obviously if we had more positions. So if this position if you remove the criminal investigation piece from it, the hardship's going to fall on local law enforcement, depending on what jurisdiction that falls in, to conduct those criminal investigations. And so it's going to be a further burden on our agency and I know other police departments and the state police to conduct those. So as the DA indicated, this job works in coordination with our investigators, crime scenes. When there's a major crime, this person is assigned tasks just as a criminal investigator. This is another resource that we have in the county to conduct these criminal investigations. So everything that would fall under that piece of it, again, is a duplication, but much needed in our community.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Excuse me. Sure.
Go ahead.
Sheriff Landers, I don't know if you can see me. I can see you.
I can see you.
As I peer around that other monitor. Are all of the positions though within your office there, are they union?
All the detective positions are, yes.
Okay, so by taking this position and making it non-union, then we differentiate between the detectives in your office and the detective that would be, or the investigator that would be in the DA's office.
Yeah, as far as the union issue, I agree that that association members shouldn't be investigating other association members, but I think that and in my discussions with the district attorney, I think she's real, she agrees with that, and that's shouldn't be an issue here. I think we all agree with that we have supervisors or sergeants that do our internal investigations with employees that are non-represented employees, and that's how our detectives do not do the internal investigation.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. I guess the question I'm coming up with is, how do we keep this a represented position and yet have these job duties assigned or potential job duties assigned that are potentially in violation of labor?
Well, you're removing those issues. So you're removing the third bullet point. So you're keeping the background investigations, but you're requested staff to remove the other internal and external. So if that's
Maybe I misunderstood the sheriff. You don't want to have union people investigating.
Current employees, but our detectives have done background investigations for potential new employees. And, I think the big difference in this type of position is that, I know HR conducts a lot of background investigations, background into history, but there's a big difference between a background that they provide and a law enforcement background that a detective or other investigator would. Now, we contract those out to part-time employees to do just because of how many we are currently doing, but that does and can fall to a detective to complete, but not the internal investigations within current employees.
Thank you. Okay, do you have an amendment to the existing language or?
I don't think we need to be changing the language that says, criminal investigations of the public. I think that, that's a piece of the PD that's needed. It seems to not be something that's going to be conflicting with the sheriff's office, how they do their work.
it, so.
So do we have language comfortable with, or do you?
I think that very last bullet point that Asia put in, about the overall criminal investigations of the public, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with that being something that needs to be reworked.
Commissioners, if I could, maybe just offer a suggestion that maybe take a look at what the detective position is in the sheriff's office and compare the two, and, those things that relate to a detective, keep. I was just looking as you were talking at our current detective job description, and it looks like it would meet the needs with a few additions that I'm sure the district attorney would want specifically for the medical examiner piece. I know that these job descriptions were evaluated for pay equity just a few years ago. And so a lot of the information in there is in the current job descriptions has been evaluated for pay equity and consistency. So maybe just going to take a look at that, or even maybe, I don't know if there would be an opportunity to have that company take another look at these two positions as equal in the county like they did other positions.
Could I propose a new motion, see how everybody feels about it?
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, well,
I guess the seconder would have to.
okay, and I would agree to that. I think we're getting bogged down in the question of how general or how specific we need to be in this motion. So I'm thinking maybe going back and simplifying it a bit and not trying to drive the discussion to the level of every detail. But if I was to make a motion, it would be something along the lines of, we move that staff work with the DA to review and potentially revise this position description, that with specific focus on potential duplicative services and possible legal and union issues and other issues identified at this meeting.
Have discussion with someone to make it.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion.
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
Commissioner Jacobson.
That is a little more vague than where we were going, but I guess I have a couple questions to ask staff.
Mr. Collier.
Yeah, Mr. Collier, there you go, thank you. Do you feel like this is sufficient for you, for that motion, for you to know what needs to happen, that we need items?
I think that with working with Ms. Yule and Ms. Danforth, I believe that we can come up with that. What you're saying.
And Ms. Danforth, do you feel like that new motion is guidance or enough information? Is it with clarity there on how we would be amending the PD?
You're taking out the internal investigation piece of the PD, is that?
The new motion, Asia review motion, staff.
That staff work with the DA to review and potentially revise this position description, its specific focus on potential duplicative services and possible legal and union issues, along with other issues identified at this meeting.
It makes sense to me. I would ask that somebody withdraw the motion and do a new motion with a deadline for that, and to allow Detective Dorsey to start immediately, understanding that she won't be performing those job duties.
I think a deadline for having the PD work.
Depending on what the deadline is, yes.
May I make a friendly amendment to the motion? Is that on the community calendar?
And I think it's, HR's department.
All right, I'll make a friendly amendment to the motion that the deadline for having the PD worked out 2 weeks from now or the 20th of April.
That would include,
For the position description.
would that include approval by the board of commissioners?
Well, have it ready for review and potential approval by the BOC by that date.
Because it could still be amended. Rest of our other remaining issues. So,
You say revised and presented to the DOC. I'm sorry.
Presented to the BOC.
Submitted to the DOC.
Okay, are we ready for a vote or further discussion? Go ahead.
Sheriff Landers, are you still there? Thank you. Would you be willing to work on this PD a little bit with staff?
I'm sorry, there was just a little bit of background noise. What was the question again?
Willing to work with staff on revising this PD?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think it's already on the floor.
Would you
Yeah, I
like to
missed
second
one.
the Commissioner Jacobs?
You already did.
You already did, yeah.
That's been amended, though, has it not?
Oh, it was amended. Okay, I'll second.
Any further discussion? Then let's vote. Commissioner Hunt?
Aye.
Aye. Before we move on, I'd like to make a few remarks. The almost daily onslaught of public challenges to the Board of Commissioners by the district attorney is something that's unprecedented in my 35 years at this courthouse. First, as a reporter whose primary beat was county government, then for the past 18 years as commissioner. In my time as commissioner, I have reviewed and acted on hundreds and possibly thousands of position requests from all county departments, including those managed by elected officials. As the district attorney has acknowledged, we have the power to set the overall budget and establish individual department budgets, but argues that we do not have the power we have exercised for years to review requests for new or revised positions. As we mentioned a few minutes ago, we consult with the Human Resources Department, our attorneys, and our insurance carrier to make sure that a position does not raise potential legal liability issues for the county. We also make sure that the position does not duplicate services already offered by other county departments, and I should add unnecessarily duplicate those services. These are all necessary and proper reasons for the board to exercise this role. In one of her daily social media posts, the district attorney says she will not be silent. I find that an ironic statement, given her ongoing social media onslaught and 2 front-page articles so far in the Newport News Times. I think those are proof that no one can silence an elected official, and no one has attempted to do so. Similarly, I will not be silenced by daily attacks, innuendos, and rumors, or by threats of criminal prosecution. I mentioned earlier that I've never seen a situation like this in Lincoln County government before, but I have seen this happen in other counties. Usually, no matter who launches the first volley, everyone suffers, including the people we have sworn to serve. Even though I'm concerned about that, I will continue to defend the integrity of this board and the appropriateness of our actions. Thank you. We'll now move on to reports.
Sure.
Yes,
Sure, I
Mr.
need to do
Miller.
a camera adjustment. Can we take
Okay.
a quick recess?
Okay,
a moment?
Are we going to have the HHS presentation in person or virtually?
Virtual.
Okay, I see Florence. Burkle.
5-minute recess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll recess and reconvene at 11:40.
Huh? Leanna's mom, hi. So we'll be working on some of this stuff, right?
I'm hoping, I don't know, I would love to bring her back for the end of the school year.
Okay.
Your pod thing is not, is that right? She would like to come back and follow up, but on a less complicated day.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You want to try to capture people's attention today?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a big thing. Does she call you?
Good to see you. Nice to have a name. Yeah, you guys will have to forgive me.
I need more water.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi.
Doing pretty good. Just kind of trying to make sure this works. Ah. This is gonna have to be it. It's not wonderful, but my other camera's good. Claire, I'll be right back. I have to use the bathroom.
Sure.
And I understand, bro. United Direction, but, you know, fine details. You know, first. We tried to go to point out specifics. Okay, we are ready to reconvene this meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. And now we will hear from Public Health Director Florence Portal with our monthly COVID update.
Good morning, commissioners and everybody. Florence Portal, Public Health Director for Public Health. Yeah, COVID update. It's been a while. Casey, you can scroll to the next slide. So here are the main things that I wanted to talk about. One, obviously on the slide after this, we're going to talk about the second booster who has come available to some of us. As you may have seen and noticed, there has been quite a sharp decrease in the amount of cases that we have seen reported to us in Lincoln County and throughout the state. The variant sister of the Omicron variant is definitely taking its place in our state and in the country. It's been said that it is more transmissible than Omicron, and that the disease that comes out of it is more of a milder disease than previous variants. The few things that I wanted also to talk about as just a reminder for everybody, since we do not have kind of like the prevention methods in place anymore, at least by law, is if you're sick or if you're coughing, actively, I would suggest that a mask be worn, especially when you are indoors. When you're sick, it would be also great to stay home and get tested for COVID. And if you test positive for COVID, remember to isolate for at least 5 days and wear a mask afterwards for at least 5 days. So those haven't really changed, but just a reminder, since, we have kind of foregone mask wearing. Next slide. So second booster, the FDA made that decision last week. So who is eligible? A few different people. So people who are 50 and older are eligible for a second booster, people who are immunocompromised, and people who received initial doses and booster of the J&J vaccine. When are people eligible? At least 4 months after their first booster dose. And what type of vaccine can they receive? Either the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine. Next slide. Okay, so the Oregon Health Authority has changed the way it's reporting cases, and therefore, kind of the look of the dashboard is a little bit different, and this is where we're taking our information from. But as you can see, in kind of like late February, we were over 1,000 cases reported a day, and at the state level, and we are now under we're probably at around 300, 7-day average of 289.9. New cases as of Monday was 604. You can see there seemed to be a slight increase in cases. As we've seen over the past few years, usually what happens in Europe tends to give us some type of a forewarning as to what might happen in the US. Europe has been seeing quite a peak in cases due to the BA2 variant that we discussed earlier. And they, as we have done, have removed all the mask wearing indoors and other protocols. So it is possible that we will see an increase in cases in the upcoming weeks. We'll have to see. Next slide. Okay, so this is our own epi curve, right, across 2021 and 2022 per month, and you can see how the drastic decline that I was talking about is reflected. So January, we reached 2,050 cases reported to us, went down to 880 in February and 10 times less in March. So this is really, really good. And actually, March numbers hadn't been, we hadn't seen those numbers since June of 2021. So that's a welcome break for the team. And our positivity rate is also way under 5%, which is really good. Next slide. As usual, we're doing a epi curve with the reports that we have to handle per week, and you can see how we were coming down, and it seems that this past week we might be coming up again. So we'll take a close look at this. Next slide. All right, so this is the yearly comparison. So we're finally back almost aligned with March of 2021 numbers, which is encouraging. Next slide. Hospitalizations across Oregon also have significantly decreased. They had not been that low in quite some time. So this is also extremely positive and hopefully gives some respite a little bit to all of our hospital workers. Next slide. So in Lincoln County, we might actually start retiring this slide, those next two slides until we get COVID patients back in the hospital. But they haven't had a COVID positive patient until Monday. So they've had, now there is one COVID patient in the hospital, not in the ICU. And this is at the Lincoln City Hospital. So that's also really good news that they are able to take a breather there as well. Next slide. So the next slide is PCH, where you can see that there are no COVID positive patients for the month of April. Next slide. Okay, our vaccinations, I think we're doing pretty good. We could have more people boosted. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in vaccination last week, which is good. We are keeping our clinics open so that people can come see us, walk in, no appointment needed. Whenever they need or want to get vaccinated. Next slide. So this is the graph that I'd like to look at. It is trying to look at the proportion of booster doses administered in a week compared to the total vaccine administered. It looks like we had quite a climb in non-booster doses, which is interesting. We'll have to see if that keeps up over time. Next slide. All right, and those are our upcoming vaccination clinics for the month of April. we will have our last clinic at the fairgrounds on Friday. So anybody who is eligible for their second booster can just come in and walk in. We will be open, I believe, from 9 to 4 p.m. on Friday at the fairgrounds in Newport. But it's not going to be only a booster clinic. It is also a first dose clinic, second dose clinic, first booster clinic, second booster clinic. We have all the vaccine you can think of available to people. And then, we are continuing on our monthly presence in Yahat, in Toledo, at Lincoln City Community Center, La Guadalupana. We are having a special outreach event in collaboration with Grace Winds, where we're going to really try to bring a lot of other services at this event to ensure that people have access to a lot of resources they might need. And then we'll be in Walport on the 24th and in Lincoln City on the 30th. And I believe that will lead us to the questions slide.
Well, thank you very much for an informative and mostly optimistic report. Are there questions or comments from my fellow commissioners?
Yeah, I do have a question. Do you have any indication that either the definition of fully vaccinated is going to change based on the new second booster dose?
No indication at this time. It's a little bit hard to hear you, Commissioner. You sound very far away. No indication at this time of any change pertaining to the fully vaccination definition.
Okay, thank you. Is that better?
No.
No?
No.
Commissioner Hunt.
Florence, thank you for your time and thank you for the usual good report. A couple of comments. Number one, I was pleased to see that the vaccination clinics are generally distributed throughout the county. I think that's an important aspect of making the ability to get vaccinations available and improving the number of individuals in the county that are vaccinated. And I will tell you, you can add a +1 to individuals in the county that have gotten their second booster. I got my second booster on Monday, and I'll be honest, say my arm feels pretty good, all things considered. So thank you for the good report.
Thank you. And thank you for your call. That made me realize that we absolutely needed a clinic this week and we made it happen. So
yeah, now let's make it clear. I did not play the commissioner card.
Oh, no.
When there was not a clinic available in Lincoln County, I drove over to the valley and I wanted to get the vaccination on Monday so that I had ample time to recover if necessary. So again, thank you for your help, though. You did provide information. It got me ultimately back the second booster. So thank you.
Good.
Okay. Thank you very much, Florence. And we will move on to the next scheduled report now. Asia Richardson, our grants assistant in the Board of Commissioners office, is going to fill us in on the status of our yearly emergency preparedness matching grant program.
Thank you, Chair Hall. So the Lincoln County Emergency Preparedness Matching Grant closed March 25th. This is a grant for qualifying entities that will provide emergency supplies or equipment, including sanitation, first aid, wireless radios, and other devices for emergency preparedness or post-disaster relief. That grant closed and we had 8 applicants. You have a list in front of you of those 8 applicants, what they plan to use the grant for and the match that they applied for. So we did have some repeats, but we also had a couple of new qualifying entities that applied this year. It's exciting to see for the community. Any questions, or do you want me to mention the VFM specifically?
Why don't you mention the names in case people have difficulty seeing the screen?
I too have difficulty seeing the screen. Thank you. So we have the Lincoln County School District, they are increasing their disaster caches at Newport area schools. North Lincoln Fire and Rescue are purchasing solar powered generator and battery system for emergency use. The city of Walport, and they are actually looking at purchasing go bags with emergency food and supplies for community members. City of Newport Fire Department are securing additional supplies to stock their emergency caches. Available to the public in the event of a nearshore Cascadia event. We have LC Community Efforts, partnering with LC Emergency Preparedness Council to assist the purchase of a 500-gallon propane tank. The Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians are looking to purchase emergency supplies for their Siletz Emergency Preparedness Mass Care Project. Yachats Rural Fire Protection District, their funds will help purchase emergency food, as well as supplies to prepare that food, which I thought was really great. And then we have OSU, Oregon State University, and Oregon Sea Grant. They are purchasing supplies for the Sea Haven Hill emergency cache that will serve residents, tourists, and employees located in the South Beach.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, just not questions or comments, nice to see some new applicants this year.
And again, I just want to verify, traditionally, this slightly under subscribes the amount of money we have available in the fund. So some years we've had agencies step forward beyond the normal grant cycle, seeking funding through this program. And so we would have the option, if qualifying grants come forward. We've always operated it on a first come, first served basis of qualified applicants. So it's, that's why we encourage people to apply as soon as the program's opened. But if they, for whatever reason, come in later, we will accommodate them. Up to the limit, correct.
I'll just make the observation that it's, again, nice to see broad representation from throughout the county. You've heard, but I'll again emphasize the fact that North Lincoln and Fire, the City of Walport, LC Community, the tribes, Yachats, again, I think that's representative of agencies throughout the county, which I think is important. So.
And we did open up to courts this year too. We did get an application that.
Okay, thanks very much, Asia. Commissioner reports.
I have none.
Yeah, I just have one order of business here. Judge Barker was trying to get on our agenda to discuss the fuel prices amendment. She wasn't placing our agenda for today, but I would like to try to get her on as soon as we can. It's like next week, her doctor is told that she can't be here. I know we have a HHS presentation from our director coming about the opioid crisis, and it sounds like Judge Lockhart before that happens, just, I think her timeline maybe is a little more urgent, but she said she would try to come back when Jane presented to us as well. So just wanted to see if the board is on board with trying to get Judge Lockhart in here. Her presentation as soon as schedules align.
With that, I think.
Nor do I.
I think it would be nice maybe to have Judge Lockhart, HHS, and potentially others together.
Samaritan Health Systems comes to mind.
Which would, I think, help demonstrate to the public that there is a broad array of agencies and individuals involved in addressing this crisis.
I agree. I think a work session might be in order here with all of those agencies together to discuss that.
Either that or Board of Commissioners, where it's on the agenda and people know ahead of time.
All right,
What the other commissioners wish.
And whatever schedule available of everyone's availability is. I kind of like the work session idea because, as in today, we're already at the 2-hour mark of the meeting. And I think it's a extensive enough and serious enough problem that we the longer time of a 90-minute or 2-hour work session exclusively devoted to this issue appeals to me.
Fine with me.
Okay, well, why don't we do a work session that might take a little bit of time to coordinate with everybody, but if everyone's in agreement, I would like to try to have this stuff out on for that. She said her manager come first. So we should
Okay,
come in and then come again when we have the work session.
okay. We're now at the point in the agenda for scheduled public comment. Again, I want to remind everybody that public comment is limited to no more than 3 minutes. Asia, I think you have a chime indicating when somebody begins to speak and when we hit that 3-minute mark. Can you play those now? So people know what to listen
Yeah,
for?
it will only play when they're 3 minutes.
Oh, when they're at the 3-minute
Yeah.
mark.
But I can say that.
So the sign up sheet's still at the front of the room.
Sure, Paul, do we wanna- what's the
Yeah,
order?
I think what I discussed with staff was first reviewing smart sheet comments, then taking comment from anybody who is online.
My name did request.
Yeah,
At the top, okay. So you want to,
Okay.
look at virtual
And
comments
then people who are present in person third.
first?
Yeah, let's look at the virtual comments.
Okay. Well, we have put those on our websites. And they are in the meeting section for today. So stand by and I'll show you where those are. Here, under the Board of Commissioners meeting of the week, written public input.
Mhm.
Okay, and looks like there's 22 different pages, not
Mhm.
necessarily 22 different documents, but probably pretty close.
We have 13.
13?
13 separate items, yes. Okay,
I'm sorry, where were we going next?
online, in the
Online.
virtual, if there's
Okay.
anybody virtually who wishes to be
Okay.
heard.
Asia, do you have a little bit of a,
Emily Baker.
okay, so everybody that's online, we're gonna start with Emily Baker, so stand by and I will unmute you. Okay, Emily. You are unmuted.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Emily Baker, and I used to work for the Health and Human Services Department. I retired on medical in 2018. I worked there for over 12 years. And I first want to say that I fully support DA Davenport. She is doing an incredible job for our community, trying to help victims and put criminals behind bars. I have sat here for the past few hours listening to Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Hunt, Commissioner Jacobson, and I am so disappointed, and I am trying to be kind and respectful. But as a member of this community, I am incredibly disappointed in you. You act like that woman is on trial for a mere job description that you yourselves claim you are responsible for. She changed nothing. She gave you everything you wanted to omit from it, and you are sitting here hashing it out, wasting taxpayer dollars. You need to give your elected officials and community and employees what they need to do their jobs and help the community. You work for us. You work for us. You have become complacent. You have lost all touch of reality. Give her the detective position immediately and help us to put criminals behind bars and help little victims like little Haley May, who was found in a duffel bag in the Van Duzer corridor. Are we going to say, no, Haley, we can't help you because Claire and Doug and Katie are upset over a job description right now? So we're gonna have to put all that on hold because you don't matter. Their opinion matters more. I just want to say, DA Danforth, we support you. The community is behind you. Your posts on social media are completely within reason, and the public appreciates it. We know what goes on behind closed doors. And Claire is only upset because she's being held accountable and called out after all these years of everyone being afraid to push back at their overreach and overstep. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else online who wishes to speak? Did they indicate prior, or do we want to open up, see if anybody wants to use the raise hand function?
Yeah, no others, Aisha? Okay, so yes, if you'd like to make a comment virtually, please use that.
Yep, there's
Yep.
one.
Here they come.
So Monica is next, and then Cindy.
All right, Monica, you are unmuted.
Monica Kurt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who is the next one?
Cindy Park.
Okay. All right. Monica, the floor is yours. You have 3 minutes. Monica? Is she unmuted?
She has
Casey?
to unmute herself.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to Cindy Carp and check back if Monica's available.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, hi.
Sure, yes,
Hi,
yes,
Monica.
hi, I'm Monica Kirk. My address is 3755 Rocky Creek Avenue, Depot Bay. I'm a resident of unincorporated Lincoln County. I have 3 points regarding the discussion item today. I would remind the commissioners that time is of the essence, according to DA Danforth. And 2, if the concern about this matter is a violation of the National Labor Relations Act or the union contract, then I would expect that the county council would have provided the Board of Commissioners with a written analysis of the pertinent case law and options that would be available to the board. Otherwise, you find the board doing their best to understand a complicated area of law without competent counsel. And third, I do appreciate Commissioner Jacobson's hanging in there and asking questions and not being cowed by Commissioner Hunt's insistence that this is a labor law problem or that there's an issue of duplication of services. And Commissioner Hall's, and Commissioner Hall. So thank you very much, Commissioner Jacobson. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica Kirk. And now is Cindy Carp ready to present? Cindy?
I hope so. Have I got a mic now, finally?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear. You have 3 minutes right now.
Thank you, universe, for getting our mic to work. I have an old computer. It's very complicated. I want to thank all the commissioners and all of the people that testified today. To the commissioners, I give my full support to all of you. We need to cooperate together to figure this out. It is a very complicated section of the law, and a good decision by all would be to continue to support the DA fully, which I do support her fully, to be able to help Lincoln County sort through our vast quantity of cases that are backlogged. We not only have backlogged in civil, we have backlogged in the circuit courts too. And how we go about doing that is to put more investigators on, not less, and not tie their hands, let them work freely and do their job. And I think that we need to probably make some changes. That's obvious. But we have to be very careful how we go about doing that. This is a governor appointed district attorney or voted in by voters and the public. So it is a very special section of the law and we need to use caution. And I would also like to ask the commissioners to include all of the YouTube comments that we had, as many as 74 participants and numerous people besides myself making comments. So I would like to make that public record, please. A lot of us are not able to use Zoom as you guys do, and we depend on YouTube free information to be able to communicate, because Zoom charges us a lot of money to do it to where we can listen to you the way other agencies and other people do. The public uses YouTube. And I appreciate that you have that process there for all of us to make public comment. For many of us don't have computers that are really quick running in the Lincoln County, and that's something else that we need to spend some time working on. I would have liked to have seen this conversation today about how we get good, solid Wi-Fi or internet for all Lincoln County citizens. Thank you.
Cindy, we're at time. Thank you for your input. Casey, is there anybody else online who has their hand raised for public comment?
I
One
don't
last
see
check.
anyone. Yeah, last call, use the raise hand function so we can see your interests. Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, we will move now to people who have signed up for in-person comment. And again, the same 3-minute time limit applies. And let's invite Lainey Danforth to come forward.
I just want to make the record clear that when I sat down here earlier today, you accused me of changing a job description and said that that was the reason for the actions that you've taken. That was not true. You had one document in your hand that you brought to control the narrative. The fact is, I didn't change the job description, and it's been 9 weeks since you told me you were reviewing this job description. 9 weeks to cross out one line in a job description. This all could have been avoided had you spoken with me. I tried 22 different times, including with the Attorney General's office, to have a conversation about this. I told you all how detrimental it was for my office not to fill this vacancy, and you didn't care. A phone call. Hey, Lainey, we're concerned about this. Okay, that makes sense. It's been in the job description for years before me. I don't care about it. Let's take it out. Case closed. In that 9 weeks, more than 25 people in our community died. They had nobody, their families had nobody to call in the DA's office. Dr. Frazier had nobody to enter information into a computer system. I had nobody to send out to death scenes. People are losing their lives. There are domestic violence victims that can't get to court. All of these things are because of your actions. And instead of focusing my attention on prosecuting crime in our community, I've been defending myself every single day since I took office. Anything I ask for, I have to beg and write letters and emails and beg and beg and beg to get the basic needs of my office met. I'm sincerely requesting that you stop. You don't have to like me. You don't have to respect me. I know you don't. But if you care about this community, then please let me run the DA's office.
Thank you. Dan McCray.
He had to leave.
Okay. Alan Everett,
Actually, just have a question.
okay.
Um,
Generally, we don't get into back and forth dialogue, but
you can ask it.
but sure, you can ask it and we can follow up as,
I don't know how else to ask it as well,
Okay.
because I have been told that if it's regarding a personnel issue, that I can't speak with the commissioners about that. So my question is, if the HR director tells me something that is in contradiction with the personnel rules, what is my recourse? Who do I report this to? If I can't,
Supervisor.
okay, well, if she can't speak with them about, if she can't speak with the commissioners about personnel rules, then who do we go
That
to?
she can't speak with the commissioners about personal rules.
Well,
They did actually.
Yeah,
Commissioner
if
Jacobson.
a personnel matter about specific personnel action, we can't talk about that person.
You said the personal rules, you said the rules. So if you have a question about the rules, you can talk to HR. We also have the assistant director.
Yes, and
Or you can talk
HR that
to-
told me,
Not about a personnel matter, so a rule. If you're looking at a rule and you need clarity on it, of course they can give you that information.
no, I don't need clarity on that. What I need is to say that the HR director told me something,
Okay.
told,
So
directed
we're
me
not
to
gonna,
do
so Ellen,
something.
you know
that-
what, you can testify that your question doesn't make sense. So my recommendation is speak with your supervisor. If you need clarity on a rule,
Okay.
if you're asking for confidential information that you're not privy to, then you're probably not privy to it. And I know it's hard to be told no, that you can't have that, but there's rules in place that say only certain people can have this information. So I would speak to,
Can this be deducted from my 3 minutes, please?
so we're not, so if you have a question about a rule,
I don't.
speak with, that's what your
I
first
have a
statement was.
criticism of the HR director. Who do I go to disclose this to you?
Commissioner Hunt is the supervisor of the HR director.
Okay.
Or you can make the criticism in public.
Okay, so I had a part-time no benefit employee on trial service that was using racial slurs and admittedly taking narcotics while at work. And I requested to terminate this person, and I was told that conduct was not terminable. So I want to know how that's not terminable when it's in violation of essentially the entire Article 12. And why should I be subjected to an employee that is using the N-word and saying spick in the office of the victims department? I should be able to terminate that person if I choose. I shouldn't be told that conduct is not terminable. So that's my question. That's my concern with the HR director. And I wanted to communicate that, but I was told I could not. So I'm glad I was able to do that now.
thank you. Gary Lehman.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We don't say that very often at these meetings, but
You look different.
sometimes.
Um,
The floor is yours,
My
sir.
name is Gary Lehman. I'm a resident of 428 Northwest 17th Street in Newport. I'd like to disclose that I'm a member of a advisory committee for the county, but I'm speaking today as a private individual. Hasn't been mentioned yet today, and I wanted to bring light to the fact that this is National Public Health Week. And in that regard, the President of the United States declared this as National Public Health Week. And I would like to submit his statement in full to be part of this record. And I would like to read a couple paragraphs of that statement in recognition of public health. This year, National Public Health Week provides a chance for all of us to come together to restore and strengthen the public health of our nation. As we have seen so starkly over the last 2 years, public health is essential to every part of our national life, not only to the safety and well-being of our families and communities, but also to our prosperity. This week, we celebrate the progress we have made to revitalize our public health, recommit ourselves to the work that still remains, and recognize all of the remarkable healthcare workers and public health professionals whose extraordinary sacrifices and courage on the front lines have carried our nation through one of the most difficult periods of our history. There is much more that we need to do to improve our public health and build a better America. As we continue to fight to defend, to defeat the pandemic, we must also continue to expand health coverage and lower the cost of health care. We must make transformational investments in our climate resilience and continue to address dangerous environmental injustices that threaten public health. We must take common sense steps to address public health epidemic of gun violence. We must come together to address the toll that mental health takes on America's children and deliver the physical and mental health care that our veterans and public service members deserve. It takes all of us to preserve the health of our nation, and together we are poised to make tremendous progress to build a better and a stronger and healthier America. So I would just like to recognize Public Health Week. I would like to recognize the Oregon Public Health Authority for their strong work in the last 2 years, and particularly the activities of the Public Health Department of this county, who I think have found new partners in some of the primary care workers in the
Gary,
county.
we're out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you, and certainly we will applaud the health department.
This is the president's statement. Thank you for the record.
Thank you. Kate Sue. Yes.
Thank you, Chair Hall and Commissioners, for giving me a few moments to speak. 3 minutes is not enough time to unpack everything that I've seen and heard here today, so I will try to be concise in my comments. I am incredibly dismayed, disturbed by what I've seen today. 9 weeks, and the laughter behind me is inappropriate. 9 weeks to wait for a resolution of this position is ridiculous. I represent an organization that represents victims. I fight for victims' rights every day. I support victims' families every day. And what you're doing by delaying this and discussing whether you're comfortable with something that you have no background or history in, you're not trained law enforcement, you are not trained prosecutors. This job is necessary. You heard from the sheriff why it's necessary. You heard from Lanny, or the DA, why it's necessary. And I appreciate Commissioner Jacobson's efforts today in trying to prevent a giant portion of this position from being just erased by people who don't understand the complexities of the job and the nature of the duties that they need to be able to perform. And I'd like to remind you that you work at the will of the people. You are elected by the people, and you can certainly be voted out by the people. Please remember, your actions have direct consequences on the people that live in this community, and you are required to take their comfort and their concerns and their safety over your own personal comfort. Thank you.
Thanks.
I don't think you stated your name for the record. I apologize. My name is Kate Duke. Thank you.
Todd Holt.
My name's Todd Holt. I live at 2080 Southeast Alsea Way down in Walport. And to secure a little bit of background, my family entered in Lincoln County about 1910. And we've been working around ever since and been involved in the community. My concerns today is I had concerns before the relationship with the commission and with the DA. it's quite obviously that you guys are in defiance of her, no matter what she does otherwise. We saw more of it today. The thing is with the employee of Abby, I've known Abby for about 20 years. Knew her long before when I had moved away, but I still come down here at that time about every week, taking care of a friend of mine. I just experienced two cadavers that I found in Acton Lake area. The thing is she knows what she's doing. I think it's wrong that you're postponing this, because I do see the effects of what the other lady said about the drugs, the fentanyl. I see it all over. I'm working on trying to get a drug house removed out of my community. The thing is it was despicable that we just dragged the feet here. The respect for the DA is not there. And the thing is respect for using Abby as a battering ram is absolutely disgusting. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Ryan Norris.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Norris, and I'm the managing partner and the co-owner of Bateman Newport LLC. And we own the funeral homes in the county. My original purpose was to come here this morning and to make sure that we're not going to have a tremendous error and really hurt the DA's department, and in effect as well really destroy our medical examiner department. We work very closely as a community partner with the DA's department as well as EMS, everybody else in the county. I'm here today. After witnessing all of the spirited conversation this morning, I do have to say I'm really amazed. I'm concerned that government is broken, but I'm here to be a voice to the 24 people that passed away in the last 9 weeks. I'm here to be a voice for the families that couldn't get an answer because the number that we gave them went to a black hole. It's really sad. And this is our community, the people that live in our community. This is the people that have somebody pass away in our community. We have to deal with suicides, MBA fatalities. It's just, it's wrong. And I'm just asking, please. I know I talked to Ron Benson in December. This isn't a surprise that he retired. We're now sitting in April, and we still don't have a filled position. In the private sector, you've got years in the private sector. When a job has been offered and then pulled back, there's legal consequences. I can't imagine it's any different in the public sector. And I just ask to please expedite this. And as I was getting ready to come in and talk, I looked at the mission statement for Lincoln County. It says to provide essential public services, both legally required and locally desired. And the 3 words at the end are very important: in an efficient, effective, and respectful manner. And I would respectfully ask that we follow those 3 words. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Rivas.
Okay, my name is Debbie Rivas, and I'm a novice to your meetings. And I just want to thank the commissioners for the integrity they demonstrated today, their ability to solve the problem with open, honest communication. My concern is with the manner in which the DA has made this topic a hostile political ploy. I say this because of her unprofessional behavior to use this to attack the commissioners. It came across to me sitting here, my first time in a meeting like this, and even hearing her speak, that she was only interested in a possible witch hunt with the use of the investigator, focusing on internal investigations. I wish that I was wrong, but that was not my impression at all. So I thank the commissioners for your professionalism and your ability to communicate with each other. This very private, I think, internal investigations and talking about personnel should have remained private, but it was pushed out, and her putting this on a right-wing political page on Facebook and telling everybody to come that she needs them here. I found that extremely unprofessional for a district attorney of our county to do something like that. And I could tell by the people that have come that all they have is animosity, and it's all political, and it's sad. It's very sad to me that the contribution that she has brought forth is division, only division. There was no real serious efforts to want to solve the problem as professionals, as an adult. It was just purely a purely a political play. So I want to thank you for your efforts to handle this very professionally and with integrity.
Thank you. Casey, do we have others who have signed up?
Well, looks like Dawn signed up right now.
Good afternoon. I have, but it's been a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is nice to be able to see you gentlemen, or to see you all in person. I just came up because I did, and this is kind of, generally you see me about this week for public health, National Public Health Week. And I just wanted to once again reiterate it's National Public Health Week. A quick update on our health centers, our own community health centers are running strong and doing good, and I think they've done a great job with COVID over the last 2+ years. The Health Council is doing well. We have had, as you know, a number of new employees, especially in management, and I'd like to let you all know that we work together well. Our new HHS director, Jane Romero, is a delight. And then once again, I'd like to put in a great plug for our FQHC director, Ms. Ann Ballard.
Ballard Robinette.
Thank you. Anyway, and I just wanted to let you know that things are going strong, and I know we didn't make a regular declaration for public health week, but I think that all of our people under HHS and especially under public health and the health centers we recognize.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay.
Michael Thorncroft.
Signed up late. Commissioners, my name is Michael Thorncroft. I'm a deputy district attorney, and I've been sitting here this morning. And I think I started in the DA's office in July 2008. What's the saying in America? There are two things you don't want to see being made: sausage and legislation. I know there's a lot of administrative stuff to this position, and I certainly, that's way above my pay grade. But what I do want to share as a prosecutor, law enforcement doesn't work for the DA's office. We work in conjunction with law enforcement. They bring us cases, we decide whether to file or not, but sometimes we need more information. One of the essential things about having an investigator in our office is because law enforcement's not always available there. Yes, when I pick up the phone, my call is returned quicker than say someone out on the street. But I had a case not too long ago, about a year ago. There was this gentleman that had assaulted this woman multiple times. And I normally don't do deep cases. And she was afraid of him. And the second case I had, it was a burglary. He broke into her house and he assaulted her. And her daughter said, "Mom, you need to get away from this guy." And our victim witness, we had her. She was all fired up to be in court. And the day of that trial, she didn't show up. She was in hiding. We knew where she was. I called law enforcement wasn't available, they had other calls that they had to respond to, it comes 9 o'clock, I don't have my victim, and I have. It happened to be the week that our investigator was on vacation. Had we had that investigator that day, as in the past, the investigator goes out, gets the victims, does that follow-up. And I can't send a legal assistant to do that in harm's way. I can't send someone from victim witness. They don't have the training and experience like Detective Dorsey did. That man committed a crime again against her. He kidnapped her. He raped her twice. Thankfully, we had her on board. Victim witness did a great job. We had our investigator that kept in great contact with her. Ms. Bogus in my office got a conviction, and that man is now in prison. And it's just, I just can't stress just how important this position is. I know there's administrative stuff that you guys need to do, but we do need it in our office. We really do. And it's just fearful when I hear that it could go to the sheriff's department. It does need to stay in the DA's office, whatever kind of stuff you guys need to do, yes. But we do need it. And I was asked that it done on, it'd be a priority.
Thank you. In just a moment, we'll be moving into an executive session under ORS 192.660 parentheses E regarding real property transactions. Staff and members of the news media may be present, others need to step out. But before we do that, I want to say something that I said before, but I was told that it was drowned out by the loud, continuous coughing that began when I began to speak and rather conveniently ended after I spoke. The almost daily onslaught of public challenges to the Board of Commissioners by the district attorney is something that, as I said before, is absolutely unprecedented in my 35 years at this courthouse. Can we get the doors closed, please, Casey? Yeah, well, yeah, let's close the door now, please. Again, in my time as a commissioner, I've reviewed and acted on hundreds and possibly by now thousands of position requests from all county departments, including those managed by elected officials. As the district attorney has acknowledged, we have the power to set overall budget and establish individual department budgets, but she argues we do not have the power that we have exercised and other commissioners have exercised here and elsewhere to review requests for new or significantly revised prescriptions. As we mentioned earlier, we consult with the Human Resources Department, our attorneys, and our insurance carrier to make sure that a physician does not raise potential legal liability issues for the county. We also make sure the physician does not duplicate services unnecessarily that are offered by other county departments. These are necessary and proper reasons for the board to exercise this role. In one of the daily social media posts from the district attorney, she says she will not be silenced. I find that an ironic statement, given this daily social media onslaught, and so far 2 front page articles in the Newport News Times. I think those are proof that no one can silence an elected official, and no one has attempted to do so. Similarly, I will not be silenced by daily attacks, innuendos, and rumors, or by threats of criminal prosecution. I mentioned earlier, I've never seen a situation like this in Lincoln County government before, but I have seen it happen in other counties. Usually, no matter who launches the first volley, everyone suffers, including the people we have all sworn to serve. Even though I'm concerned about that, I'm concerned about unwarranted personal attacks on other county staff. I will continue to defend the integrity of this board and the appropriateness of our actions. So since I had one final bite, if either of my commissioners have any further reflections on what's transpired here today, I'd like to offer them that opportunity. Okay. All right. At this point, we are going to recess into the executive session. We may reconvene following the session to take action, but we will briefly recess and
5 minutes.
3 minutes.
You're staying, right?
I'm staying.
Yeah.
Can't leave, yeah. As you wish.
Need water or anything?
No, I'm good. Oh, you need a break for that?
Okay, I ran out.
I was-